Korean Economic News Broadcast. Good morning. Here is today's Korean Economic News Briefing. We begin with significant developments in Korea's response to Middle Eastern geopolitical tensions and their cascading effects on our economy. Deputy Prime Minister Koo Yoon-chol convened an emergency economic meeting this morning, where he emphasized the government's commitment to maintaining stable shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz in coordination with shipping companies and relevant nations. The Deputy Prime Minister acknowledged that supply chain shocks are currently underway, but announced decisive policy measures to support affected businesses. Most notably, the government is relaxing restrictions on public contract price adjustments, allowing modifications within 90 days rather than after 90 days. Additionally, penalty charges for construction delays will be waived to ease the burden on contractors facing surging material costs due to Middle Eastern conflict-related disruptions. Complementing these efforts, the Small and Medium Business Administration is intensifying its focus on stabilizing the payment linkage system for suppliers. This mechanism ties material costs directly to subcontractor payments, creating a crucial safety net for smaller enterprises facing commodity price volatility. The government has established a dedicated support headquarters to ensure this system becomes firmly rooted across industrial supply chains. Recognizing the critical importance of chemical supply chains, the government has accelerated special registration procedures for chemicals facing supply shortages. Rather than requiring complete hazard test data, manufacturers can now register chemicals using preliminary test plans. This expedited process, effective immediately, directly addresses supply chain vulnerabilities exposed by Middle Eastern tensions. Turning to monetary policy, the Bank of Korea's Monetary Policy Committee has maintained the base interest rate at 2.5% in what marks the seventh consecutive hold decision. This unanimous choice reflects the challenging economic environment where inflation pressures clash with growth concerns. Governor Lee Chong-yong, in his final monetary policy decision before his tenure concludes, underscored that the Middle Eastern conflict presents genuine supply shock risks to the Korean economy. The committee acknowledged that consumer price inflation rose modestly from 2% in February to 2.2% in March, though government petroleum price stabilization measures helped contain these increases. Notably, the committee signaled that May's economic outlook will include substantial upward adjustments to inflation forecasts, suggesting mounting price pressures ahead. The international backdrop complicates Korea's policy calculus considerably. The U.S. Federal Reserve's March meeting minutes, released yesterday, revealed that officials discussed both interest rate increases and decreases as viable options, indicating heightened policy uncertainty surrounding energy-driven inflation. American first-quarter GDP growth disappointed at just 0.5%, further clouding the global economic picture. Meanwhile, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has downgraded Korea's full-year growth forecast from 2.1% to 1.7%, a 40 basis point reduction reflecting Middle Eastern conflict impacts. The government is responding aggressively on multiple fronts. Beyond the measures already discussed, construction material prices now face accelerated monitoring with shortened survey cycles ensuring immediate cost reflection in public works projects. This represents a pragmatic acknowledgement that traditional procurement timelines cannot accommodate the current volatility environment. On the financial markets, we saw encouraging movements today. The KOSPI and KOSDAQ indices rose together as Middle Eastern tensions appeared to ease slightly ahead of U.S.-Iran negotiations scheduled for Pakistan on the 11th. Foreign investors engaged in substantial net purchases of $1 trillion worth of KOSPI shares. The Korean $1 exchange rate stabilized at around 1,482.5 won per dollar, supported by reduced geopolitical risk premiums. Real estate markets present a more complicated picture. Seoul apartment prices continue their divergent trajectory, with outer districts continuing appreciations while Gangnam areas decline. This week's data shows the overall Seoul apartment price appreciation rate at 0.1%, down from 0.12% the previous week. Northern districts like Sungbuk and Gangseo recorded gains of 0.23 and 0.25% respectively, while strong-performing areas pushed some Gangbuk district averages past the 11 billion won threshold for the first time. Housing affordability concerns intensify as lending restrictions and persistent Jaeon's market volatility drive prices upward in peripheral areas. With the government's deadline for multiple property-holder capital gains tax surcharges approaching in late May, property owners and buyers remain locked in price negotiations, creating extended holding patterns. The government has also adjusted tax incentives for unsold units in provincial areas, raising the ceiling for favorable capital gains tax treatment from 600 million won to 700 million won, attempting to stimulate regional housing market activity. In the semiconductor and AI sectors, positive momentum persists despite geopolitical headwinds. TSMC reported record March revenues and first quarter results driven by AI chip demand. Intel has expanded its partnership with Google Cloud, securing a multi-year contract to supply advanced Xeon processors and jointly developing custom infrastructure processors. This demonstrates continued AI infrastructure investment momentum despite broader economic uncertainty. The cryptocurrency sector sees important regulatory development. The government is comprehensively revamping its seized virtual asset management systems following security breaches involving police, prosecutors, and tax authorities. New protocols mandate immediate transfer to institutional wallets, biometric authentication with mandatory multi-person backup verification, and dedicated security management oversight, substantially strengthening protection against losses and theft. Finally, labor market concerns surrounding artificial intelligence merit attention. Goldman Sachs research obtained by Korean media indicates that AI-driven job displacement could elevate unemployment rates by up to 0.5 percentage points over the coming decade. Workers transitioning after AI displacement face salary reductions averaging 10 percentage points, highlighting the critical importance of retraining programs and labor market support policies. In summary, Korea faces a complex economic environment balancing inflation concerns, growth slowdowns, geopolitical risks, and structural labor market transformations. The government's pragmatic response, loosening public contract restrictions, accelerating chemical registrations, stabilizing supplier payment mechanisms, and maintaining measured monetary policy, reflects appropriate caution. For investors, the current moment presents selective opportunities in export-oriented sectors like semiconductors and AI infrastructure, while requiring heightened vigilance regarding interest rate trajectories and currency movements. General households should monitor housing market developments, prepare for potential continued inflation, and remain attentive to labor market disruptions from technological advancement. Thank you for your attention to this morning's economic briefing.